So sales automation is much more than just how many emails, texts, phone calls you're making to any lead. So specifically to real estate investing, there are several phases that we go through. We're reaching out to sellers. Here we have this pipeline number 2 really breaks down the process. But the lead comes in, then they become a new prospect, they show some kind of interest, then they're qualified. Then we want to get an appointment with them. Specifically, we're looking at their property or we're having a Zoom call with them to talk about the property. But that first appointment, when it happens, then what happens is we've got enough information, hopefully, to go to our underwriting. It may still be the acquisitions manager, but whoever it is, that person needs to break down the numbers and decide what is the maximum allowable offer. And then from there, usually the acquisitions manager or possibly the underwriter will write up the offer. Usually it's the acquisitions manager, the person who had been talking to the seller in the first place. And then, then the offer's presented and then it's accepted and then the contract is sent to the seller and then it's signed and then, goes on to the next pipeline. And as we all know, so many things happen at each one of these steps. One of the most important things I feel that is going to come out of Iron Closer that's really different is while we do put a lot of focus on how do we convert every single lead, that originally was the whole reason we started building it, but how do we get the deal? Leads, a lot of us, we just have leads coming in so many different directions and we're making decisions about paying for different sources and things like that. But we want to know that regardless of how they come in, that we're contacting them as soon as possible and then following up if we don't get a hold of them. So let's go back to this chart. At any one of these steps, the sale could fall through for whatever reason. So we need to know if the lead comes in. Number one, how does the lead come in? So we have all these different ways that they can come in, from phone calls to texts and emails and forms, from wholesalers. We've got referrals that come in. We got leads that are just in there. We don't know where they came from. We've got paid ads or imported lists. We'll buy it, pay per leads, things like that. So we want to make sure that a lead is handled properly as they're coming in. So this lead in, by the time they hit this, so many things have already happened. So we want to make sure, again, that they're handled properly so that, number one, they're being contacted right away. But number two, we can go back and resort them. Another thing that comes up beyond the leads, I feel can be a bottleneck, is when, obviously today I'm not going to talk much about getting this appointment because that's like a whole nother topic. But once it's sent to underwriting, so again, we want our underwriters to look at it and decide if we even, if we do write an offer, what is that offer that we should make? And so when we're building this system out, what we want to do is, number one, tag it. Number two, we want it in the right pipeline. And for us, we have a pipeline that tracks KPIs overall, and then it tracks it by each of the sub pipelines that they're in, which I'll talk about in another video. Right now, I just want to talk about, when it goes to underwriting specifically, as an example, once the pipeline's updated, then we send an internal email to the underwriter and just let them know, like, hey, we're assuming that this underwriter is a different person, but even if it is the same person as that's handling the acquisition, so talking directly to the seller, regardless of who it is, they get this detailed email with all of the information that we have on file, an image if we have it on file, where's the project folder, property details, and all of the tax information and the exit strategy. So if any of that is not completed, then the underwriter is going to have the opportunity to do so. But ultimately, the most important thing we want from the underwriter is the maximum allowable offer. So what happens is there's this link right here, and it goes to, and I'll show it to you here in a second, it goes to the underwriting form. And I'm going to show you the back end versus the front end, but you can see it's got seller's email address, which on that email, it shows seller's email, copy and paste it to the form. So once it's copied, then the underwriter can just paste it right in here and select the exit strategy, just to confirm it. The underwriting price, right, type that in, that's required. And then any project folder link. So we're assuming that there is supporting documentation. So this project folder could be a Drive folder, or it could be like I use Intel CRE for breaking down the numbers and things like that. So that's what I would put in here, is a direct link to the supporting documentation. And then a lot of times we'll have a folder that has some photos, and then I'll just put that link in here. Again, this one's not required, but the more the underwriter can put in here, the more information the acquisition team has when they sit down to write up the offer. Then again, these are some the county records. I mean, the underwriter has to look that up in order to, I mean, at least in our office, maybe not for you, I don't know, but county records information, again, so it's just right there handy in the contact, property details, URL, again, not required, but a lot of times, like, we use Property Radar to look up our property information. So that's what I would put in there, is a link to Property Radar. And if it is listed, the listing information. Again, the required fields have a little star next to them, so you can see this is not required. Legal description, that is going to be needed when an offer is written up, so it is required at the underwriting phase. And you can go in this system, like, it's super easy to go and change. If you're like, hey, we don't want to include the legal description at this point, tax parcel number. And then I know some states have some counties have additional information. Property type, just to confirm it, number of units, zoning or use. Again, in the email, all of this is laid out. So if the underwriter is like, hey, I don't know that, they can just go find it, copy and paste it. Seller's equity, again, optional. So once this form is completed, again, I'm always thinking of this from the standpoint of KPIs and how can we get this pipeline moving at every single phase without the team having to manually do it. So, when the underwriter gets this information, then we've got the link there handy. They open the link, they enter the information, and then once that form is completed, then it automatically goes to the next pipeline. So you can see there's I nerd out about this, so don't worry about this. If you're like, I hate technology, don't worry about it. Just know this is built out so that it's always waiting for the underwriting form submitted tag. So there's another automation that as soon as that underwriting form is received, then the tag is added, and then it automatically stops this whole thing. So the underwriter stops getting reminders. But if not, like, I don't know about you, but sometimes our projects get stuck in underwriting. And so as soon as it is received, it stops. But if it isn't received, it says wait for the underwriting tag. If it doesn't happen in 3 hours, send a text to the underwriter and then wait for it again. And if it doesn't come in a day, we've got an internal email that, again, is like, hey, underwriter, did you get this email? Did you get this email? Could you please do it? So it's got all the information again. And then an internal notification is actually sent to the person who's assigned to it. The person assigned to it is the acquisitions team member who's been talking to the seller, or who had that meeting with the seller. Then again, we're waiting for the underwriting form tag again for one more day. If we don't get it, another email goes out, says, hey, I know you're busy. There's a final reminder. And then same information again, just to make it easy. And then the assigned user again will get one that says, hey, this information was sent. It's not been received. Please check on it. And then it times out, because we just can't keep it in here forever. And then, there are a lot of pieces, though, that go into this that I just wanted to show you this one, because, it's easy to think, it's easy to overlook some of these steps. And we've just tried to cover every single step based on what process we go through when purchasing a property. So I hope, if you want help from us, let me know. But if not, hopefully this just helps inspire you to dig in and make sure that all these pieces are not missed, and that it's just made really, really easy for you and for your team. Let me know if you have any questions or comments.